If you could look at yourself in the mirror 90 days from now and not recognize the person staring back at you, would you be willing to accept that challenge? There comes a moment in every human life when the soul whispers an inconvenient truth. You are not living even a fraction of your true potential. It's as if a higher version of yourself is knocking on the door of your consciousness, begging to be released, yet you keep pretending not to hear it. That sense of incompleteness is no accident. It is the most sacred calling you can receive, the invitation to a metamorphosis that goes far beyond any superficial transformation you may have experienced before. What I am about to share with you today is not just strategies or empty motivational techniques. It is 7 profound challenges, tested by ancient wisdom and modern science, capable of completely rewriting the mental programming that has kept you trapped in a limited version of yourself. Most people live in a state of emotional and spiritual dormancy, believing that the life they know is the only one possible, when in truth they are merely scratching the surface of an ocean of infinite possibilities. Every morning when you wake up, you face a choice: remain the same person as yesterday, with the same fears, the same limitations, and the same predictable outcomes, or take a quantum leap toward the highest and most powerful version of who you truly are. These 7 challenges I am about to reveal act like master keys that open doors within your mind you didn't even know existed, activating dormant inner resources and awakening abilities that have always been there, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The first sign that you are ready for this journey is the deep restlessness you feel when you look at your current life, that persistent sense that something greater is waiting for you, yet remains unreachable as long as you cling to the same patterns of thought and behavior. This is not a cosmic coincidence. It is your inner navigation system desperately trying to steer you toward your true magnetic north. When you embrace these challenges, you are not merely changing habits or adjusting behaviors, you are literally reprogramming the software of your existence, installing a new version of your mental operating system that processes reality in a completely different way. Get ready to discover that the person you believed yourself to be was merely a character you were playing, built upon limiting beliefs inherited from others and past experiences that crystallized an identity far too small to contain the magnitude of your true being. These 7 challenges will act like a controlled earthquake in your psyche, shattering obsolete mental structures and clearing the way for a new architecture of possibilities to arise. You will begin to think thoughts you've never thought, feel emotions you've never experienced, and take actions that your former self would never have had the courage to consider. What makes these challenges so revolutionary is that they work simultaneously across multiple dimensions of your existence: mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical, creating a transformative synergy that exponentially accelerates the process of personal evolution. We are not talking about gradual changes that take years to manifest. We are talking about an inner revolution that begins producing tangible results in a matter of days, altering not only how you see yourself but how the entire world responds to your new energy and presence. Stay with me until the end, because what you are about to learn will completely redefine what it means to be truly alive and to unleash the extraordinary potential that has always resided within you. There is a precise moment in every person's life when the veil of unconsciousness tears apart and reveals a disturbing truth. You have been living on autopilot, following routines and patterns that were programmed by others, not by you. True freedom lies in the ability to choose your thoughts and actions, but very few people ever truly exercise this fundamental freedom. After decades of clinical work, I have observed that most people operate from a borrowed identity, a patchwork quilt made of family expectations, social pressures, and inherited fears they never questioned. This first challenge consists of stopping completely and asking the most radical question there is: who would I be if I removed every layer of conditioning and allowed myself to be authentically me? The resistance you feel when contemplating this question is no coincidence. It is your ego's defense system trying to protect the structure of beliefs that has kept you functioning, even if only in a limited way. As someone who has spent an entire life first cultivating the earth and then cultivating human souls, I have learned that both plants and people need a pruning process in order to truly flourish. What you call your personality may actually be nothing more than a set of survival strategies you developed in childhood, strategies that, in adulthood, have become invisible prisons. This first challenge is about having the courage to question absolutely everything about who you think you are, because only when you can see through the illusions of your constructed identity can you begin to discover your authentic essence. There is a vast difference between living in reaction and living from conscious choice, and this distinction determines whether you will be the author of your life or merely a character performing a script written by others. When you truly grasp that every thought you think, every emotion you feel, and every action you take are choices, even when they seem automatic, something revolutionary happens in your consciousness. The power returns to your own hands. This challenge is not about superficial changes in behavior. It is about an ontological revolution, a transformation at the very core of your being that fundamentally alters how you process and respond to reality. Most people live in a state of emotional sleepwalking, reacting to life's events like leaves in the wind, never realizing they hold the power to choose their responses and, consequently, their experiences. When you accept this first challenge of awakening to your capacity for conscious choice, you are not merely improving your life, you are literally being reborn as a functionally different human being. The very same situations that once caused you suffering begin to turn into opportunities for growth, because now you process them through a completely renewed mental operating system. The moment you truly internalize that you are the one choosing the meaning you assign to each experience is the moment you become truly free. Not free from circumstances that would be a childish fantasy, but free to choose how you will interpret and respond to those circumstances. This is the deepest and most revolutionary freedom a human being can experience, and it is the foundation upon which all the other 6 challenges will be built. When you master this first principle, you stop being the victim of your own life and become the creative director of your existence. The second challenge dives into the most complex and transformative territory of human experience, the way you relate to other human beings and, more importantly, how you relate to yourself within those connections. Building loving, erotic relationships based on love that fits your true measure requires a complete deconstruction of the relational models we have learned in a culture that confuses emotional dependency with love and possessiveness with care. Over 40 years of working with couples and families, I have witnessed how people imprison themselves in toxic relational dynamics because they never learned the fundamental difference between love and need, between intimacy and fusion, between choice and compulsion. The revolution of human bonds begins with a disturbing realization: you cannot truly love another person if you have not first developed a healthy and conscious relationship with yourself. What most people call love are, in reality, sophisticated strategies for filling emotional voids, desperate attempts to find in another what they never learned to cultivate within. This challenge consists of brutally honest examination of all your relationships, romantic, familial, friendships, and professional, and identifying where you are operating from lack rather than abundance, from need rather than choice, from fear rather than genuine love. There is a destructive pattern that permeates nearly all human relationships: the tendency to try to control, modify, or fix the other person so that they conform to our expectations and needs. This dynamic transforms what should be an encounter between 2 free individualities into a battlefield where each person attempts to mold the other into their own image. The second challenge is about learning to love without possessing, to connect without losing your identity, to commit without self-sacrifice. It is about understanding that healthy relationships are not two halves completing each other, but 2 whole beings consciously choosing to share their journeys. The most radical transformation that happens when you accept this challenge is the realization that you are 100% responsible for the quality of your relationships, independent of the behavior of others. This does not mean you are to blame for everything that happens, but it does mean you always have the power to choose how you will respond, how you will position yourself, and what kind of energy you will bring into the relational dynamic. When you stop trying to change others and focus instead on becoming the kind of person you wish to have relationships with, something magical happens. The right people naturally gravitate toward you, while those not aligned with your new vibration gradually drift away. This challenge also includes learning how to set healthy boundaries, not as walls to keep people out, but as clear definitions of what you accept and do not accept in your relationships. Healthy boundaries are acts of self-love and love for others because they create space for authentic relationships to flourish. When you lack clear boundaries, resentment inevitably grows, and resentment is the poison that slowly kills any human connection. The revolution of human bonds is about learning to say no with love, yes with enthusiasm, and to remain centered in yourself no matter the emotional storms that may arise around you. The third challenge enters the most intimate and often neglected universe of human experience: your relationship with your own emotions. Most people live in an internal civil war, battling their emotions as if they were enemies, trying to suppress them when they are uncomfortable or clinging desperately to them when they are pleasurable. This dysfunctional relationship with emotional life is the root of almost all psychological suffering and is what prevents millions of people from accessing their full personal power. The challenge of emotional alchemy is about learning to dance with your emotions instead of fighting against them, transforming yourself from a victim of your emotional states into a conscious maestro of your inner life. Emotions are not absolute truths about reality. They are information, signals from your internal navigation system trying to communicate something important about your present experience. When you understand that an emotion is simply energy in motion flowing through your body, carrying a specific message, you can begin to develop a completely different relationship with it. Anger can become fuel for necessary change. Sadness can become a portal to greater compassion. Fear can become a wise counselor alerting you to real risks, and joy can become a magnet for even higher experiences. Emotional alchemy is about learning to decode these messages and to use emotional energy as a resource instead of being dominated by it. The culture we live in has taught us to categorize emotions as positive and negative, creating a neurotic relationship where we try to maximize some and minimize others. This is a primitive understanding that keeps people trapped in cycles of unnecessary suffering. In reality, all emotions are neutral. They are simply different frequencies of energy serving specific purposes in the economy of your human experience. The challenge is to develop what I call alchemical emotional intelligence, the ability to feel deeply without being dominated, to process completely without getting stuck, and to transform any emotional state into wisdom and personal power. One of the most liberating discoveries you can make is realizing that you are not your emotions, you are the conscious space in which emotions appear and disappear. This realization changes everything. Instead of identifying with anger and saying, "I am an angry person," you learn to observe, "There is anger happening in this moment," and keep your identity separate from the temporary emotional state. This subtle yet revolutionary distinction gives you the power to choose how to respond rather than react automatically. You begin to cultivate what spiritual masters call the inner witness, a part of your consciousness that remains centered and clear even in the midst of the most intense emotional storms. Emotional mastery is not about becoming a cold or disconnected person. It is about becoming so comfortable with the entire spectrum of human emotional experience that no state can destabilize you or control your choices anymore. When you master this third challenge, you develop a magnetic and stable presence that attracts people and opportunities because others unconsciously sense that you are someone who cannot be swept away by the emotional dramas that dominate most people's lives. You become a safe harbor in a world of emotional turbulence, first for yourself, and then for all those fortunate enough to be in your presence. The fourth challenge involves one of the deepest and most unsettling questions a human being can face. What did you truly come here to do in this lifetime? Most people live with a borrowed purpose, following paths laid out by external expectations, social pressures, or simply the need to survive without ever truly connecting to the unique calling that resonates at the core of their being. This disconnection from authentic purpose is like living with only half of your vital force. You can function, but you never truly thrive or experience the feeling of being fully alive and aligned with who you really are. Purpose is not something you find out there, like a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. It is something that naturally emerges once you peel away the layers of conditioning that have obscured your true nature. After decades of helping people reconnect with their essence, I have observed that purpose has always been there, pulsing quietly beneath the anxieties of safety, approval, and social conformity. The challenge is to have the courage to listen to that inner voice, even when it whispers directions that seem impractical or contradict the expectations others hold for your life. It is about trusting the wisdom of your heart, even when your rational mind lists 1,000 reasons why you should choose the safer path. The metamorphosis of purpose often requires you to pass through what mystics call the dark night of the soul, a period where everything you thought you wanted or believed was important is questioned and potentially stripped away. This can be an extremely uncomfortable phase because it may involve leaving behind professional identities, relationships, or lifestyles no longer aligned with who you are becoming. It is like a snake shedding its skin, a necessary but temporarily vulnerable process where you are no longer who you used to be, but not yet fully who you are destined to become. What makes this challenge particularly transformative is the realization that your purpose is not about you, it is about how your unique combination of talents, experiences, and perspectives can serve something greater than your personal interests. When you discover this connection between your individuality and your contribution to the whole, an extraordinary energy is released in your life. You stop working out of obligation and begin working out of inspiration. You no longer chase external motivation, you discover an inexhaustible source of inner energy. Your actions become naturally aligned because they flow from your authentic center rather than forced attempts to fit into molds never designed for you. When you live aligned with your authentic purpose, something magical happens. The universe conspires in your favor. Opportunities appear synchronistically. The right people cross your path. Resources materialize in unexpected ways. This is not wishful thinking, it is the natural result of no longer swimming against the current of your own nature, but instead flowing with the river of your true vocation. You become a channel for greater creative forces, and your life transforms from a series of struggles into an elegant dance with the infinite possibilities that have always been available to you. The fifth and deepest challenge involves the conscious integration of all dimensions of your being: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, into a coherent symphony of authentic existence. Most people live fragmented lives, developing certain parts of themselves while neglecting or repressing others, creating inner imbalances that manifest as anxiety, depression, dysfunctional relationships, or a persistent sense that something is missing in life. This fragmentation is not accidental, it is the result of a culture that teaches us to value certain capacities over others and to artificially divide aspects of the human experience that are, in reality, profoundly interconnected. Multidimensional integration begins with the recognition that you are not merely a body that thinks, nor just a mind inhabiting a body, nor only a spiritual being having a human experience. You are all of these simultaneously, operating as a dynamic, interconnected system in which each dimension both influences and is influenced by the others. When you consciously honor and cultivate your physical well-being, your emotional intelligence, your mental clarity, and your spiritual connection, they amplify one another, creating a quality of presence and personal power that transcends any one of these dimensions in isolation. It is like the difference between playing individual notes on a piano and creating a harmonious piece of music where each note contributes to the beauty of the whole. This integration requires brutal honesty with yourself about which aspects of your humanity you have cultivated and which you have neglected or rejected. Perhaps you are intellectually brilliant but disconnected from your body and its physical needs. Perhaps you are emotionally sensitive but afraid to develop your spiritual strength because you associate it with religious dogmas that do not resonate with you. Perhaps you are highly intuitive but struggle to organize your insights into practical action in the material world. The challenge is to identify these gaps and to have the courage to venture into unfamiliar territories of your own potential. True mastery of life does not come from maximizing one skill or trait, but from developing the ability to fluidly access different aspects of your being as life's circumstances demand. At times you need the strength and discipline of your physical body, at others the sensitivity and intuition of your heart, at others the clarity and analysis of your mind, and at still others the broad perspective and connection of your spiritual dimension. When these dimensions are integrated and available, you become like a virtuoso musician who can play any instrument in the orchestra of existence as the music of life calls for it. Multidimensional integration also involves making peace with the parts of yourself you have judged, rejected, or tried to hide. Your shadow, the aspects of your personality you consider unacceptable, contains tremendous energy and resources that remain inaccessible as long as you keep them repressed. When you learn to consciously integrate even the most challenging aspects of your humanity, they transform from problems into resources, from weaknesses into unique strengths. You stop wasting energy trying to maintain a perfect facade and instead invest that energy in becoming genuinely extraordinary. This is the ultimate alchemy, transforming lead into gold, shadow into light, fragmentation into wholeness, potential into realization. We have arrived at the most sacred moment of this journey, the instant when you must decide whether you will close this video and return to the life you've always known, or accept the invitation to become someone you can barely imagine today. These 7 challenges are not just beautiful concepts for reflection, they are keys that open dimensional doors in your consciousness, portals to versions of yourself that already exist in potential, waiting for your courage to manifest them in reality. Over the past decades observing human transformation, I've learned that there is a precise moment when theory becomes personal revolution, when intellectual understanding alchemizes into lived metamorphosis. That moment is now, in this exact instant, when your cells are vibrating at a slightly different frequency, when your soul recognizes a truth your mind is still processing. The journey we've described today, from the awakening of consciousness to multidimensional integration, is neither linear nor predictable. It is an ascending spiral, where each challenge accepted and integrated prepares you for even deeper levels of self-realization. You will discover that the person who started watching this video no longer exists. In their place, a more conscious, more integrated, more courageous, and infinitely more powerful human being is emerging. This is not a transformation that happens to you, it is a transformation you deliberately choose to embody through your daily decisions, your conscious relationships, your courage to feel deeply, and your dedication to living aligned with your authentic purpose. What makes these challenges so revolutionary is that they function like installing a new operating system into your consciousness, reprogramming not only how you think about life, but how you experience it viscerally. When you awaken to your capacity for conscious choice, your relationships are automatically transformed. When your relationships become more authentic, your emotional intelligence naturally expands. When you master your emotional life, your true purpose emerges with crystalline clarity. And when you live aligned with your purpose, all dimensions of your being integrate into a symphony of extraordinary existence. It is an organic and inevitable process, like a seed that already contains within itself all the information needed to become a majestic tree. The most unsettling and liberating truth I can share with you is this: you already possess everything you need to become unrecognizable. You don't need more information, more courses, more therapy, or more time. You need only the courage to stop postponing your own greatness and begin living as if your life, this one precious existence you have been given, truly mattered. Every morning you wake up is a new opportunity to choose between the limited version of yourself you know and the extraordinary version that is knocking on the door of your consciousness. The difference between those who transform and those who remain trapped in the same patterns is not talent, luck, or circumstance. It is the willingness to accept these challenges as sacred invitations into a life worth living. Now you have a choice to make, and this choice will define not only the next 90 days but potentially the rest of your existence. Will you allow these words to dissolve into the fog of unrealized good intentions, or will you use this moment as ground zero for your personal revolution? If these ideas have touched something deep within you, if you recognize that the time has come to stop rehearsing for life and finally start living it, show it by liking this video, not as a mechanical gesture but as a declaration that you are ready for the journey. Share this message with someone you know is ready to awaken, Because genuine transformation is contagious and the world desperately needs more people living in their full potential. Subscribe to this channel if you want to be part of a community of human beings committed to inner excellence, because alone you may go fast, but together we go far. And tell me in the comments, which of these 7 challenges resonated most deeply with your soul? Your answer may be exactly what someone else needs to read to find the courage to take the first step toward the most extraordinary version of themselves.